She was able to do the one zip code and compare that also with the city as a whole, Escambia County, the state of Florida, and the United States. And if you look at just in 32501, the less than high school graduate number there that has been circled. And then also further down, when you look at the 9th through 12th grade, the number there as far as having a diploma. And then 1 or more years of college. Potential outcomes, economic assets, freed up savings for families, tightening of housing market, rise in property values, new housing construction, lower office vacancy rates because businesses will want to move into the community, new business investment, retention and attraction of middle-class families leading to greater income diversity in neighborhoods and schools, increased tax revenues through population growth, larger city population supports more vibrant downtown. The social capital, these are potential outcomes. Community morale, the winning pennant. There's something so transformative about being able to look children in the eye and say that we are investing in ourselves, we care enough about ourselves as a community. It's not an entitlement. If it were federal dollars coming down, that's entitlement. But when we are investing in ourselves, it's community. And it's a winning attitude from the very beginning. When we touch a child's life that's entering school at kindergarten, we give them their My Day card that tells them the day that they'll be attending post-secondary education. That goes back to the family and empowers the entire family. So you change your community by investing in yourselves. Mobilization of community organizations around the goals of Pensacola's promise. The successful Kalamazoo plan has 138 agencies and programs with over 500 volunteers that are already in place, and this is really just one more thought along the way in their conversations with the community and their efforts that the promise plan is there for them. Increased volunteer activity within the schools and in student support organizations. Part of what we've talked about, not only for the private and parochial schools to make up the difference because they aren't attending a public school, but also volunteering back and completing the cycle that students that are in the program will actually mentor and go back into the school system or even within the city if we did it at the community centers or within our libraries and tutor and read and share their success story with the students that are just entering into the path for the promise. Additional philanthropic resources to meet new needs and increased levels of social cohesion as a result of better educated residents. And the impact on the local economy, 100% of the scholarship dollars stay here. Some of the other plans allow them to go anywhere in the country. Some of them are statewide in Michigan, but when you look at how beautiful Pensacola is and to be able to keep people here and attract them here, these are the commuters that are staying. It stays in our community, so every dollar invested is in your citizens, and it's in PJC, UWF, and George Stone, so it does not leave. And then I won't read through all of these as far as the Kalamazoo, but it just gives you some of the statistics that the transformation of Kalamazoo in a shrinking state population that they were actually growing. And then it also, going back to the last screen, addresses the truancy rates, and the enrollment in their schools has gone up. So there's many benefits to the Promise Plan. And then on the bottom, though, the commercial real sales are up also. I've condensed this one screen that shows you the cost model. We went into a great deal of detail for you with Escambia County school documents, state documents, and federal documents, also some documents from the Haas Center. And then there is actually a center for college retention. They analyze college retention around the country, so we were able to get some data from them. But I will very quickly go through this model and explain to you a few of the points that are conservative measures along the way. And what I mean by that is that the data was either less or more, but we erred on the side of conservative and overestimated some of the items. The students, and basically what we will do to verify students going forward, it will be very easy because we'll use registration, but going backward we'll use the sanitation records from the city of Pensacola because that's the most comprehensive address for the students, and we would compare that to the first class of graduating seniors, verify them based on their school records and the sanitation history, and then go backwards each class as we're implementing the project. But those are the numbers that we came up with for the 2 schools that lie within the city. Again, realizing that some of the students there are not city residents, but also realizing some of the students are in other programs around the school district. Graduation rate, that is a documented graduation rate from the state. So we had the public school graduates, private graduates. The eligibility rate, that rate is saying the average, and it is a high number because if you look at that would assume that everyone's been here since 4th grade. We are a very transient society, so that is a high number and our first conservative measure in the estimate. So that gives you your next column for eligible. Then the column after that is desiring additional education. The Haas Center did a study in 2005 verifying students that actually had enrolled in college, endeavored for post-secondary education from Escambia County schools, and it was just a little over 50%. So we're assuming 80%, so it's almost double. But this is assuming that every child that graduates from Escambia County School or private or parochial is going to say, forget it, Mom and Dad, I'm not going to your beloved Auburn or Alabama or Florida State or University of Florida or Florida A&M. I'm staying here and going to PJC and UWF, or even the military academies, that they're all going to stay. We're saying 80% of who is eligible would actually want to use this. So that is an incredibly conservative measure, because we all know our love affair for those other schools in the area that children will be going to those as well. So then the cumulative number, that just shows, and that is a quite detailed calculation because you actually look at the numbers for retention that the Center for Retention has actually analyzed and looked at, but it just shows that, okay, you have first-year students, and then you have, if some of them are only a 2-year student, or actually a 1-year at Georgetown, a 2-year student at PJC, or if they're a 4-year student. And then you add the graduates for each year, and it's a quite complicated formula, but that gives you that number. Average tuition hours, again, we took Georgetown, PJC, and UWF and averaged them. The number here that you have is the PJC number. We did increase this, and my original estimate when I presented this to you was just a minimum of 12 hours, but we do have to fund the 4 years if that's what we're offering, so we increased that to the 15 hours with 2 semesters and the total tuition costs.
Maren, before you move off this slide, I had a couple of questions. On the graduation rate, I know that's a state-supplied number. Do you have any idea what their methodology was on it? The reason I'm curious is because those are very specific numbers, out to the decimal point. Mm-hmm. And I was just curious as why they thought there would be an 8% rise in graduation from 2010 to 2020.
Well, those numbers for our formula, the first one is the actual rate that the state uses, but it's assuming an increase in graduation rate because of the Promise Plan. So it's a small conservative measure saying that you have to assume that to the benefit of the school district and the children within it, that this Promise Plan is going to transform it. So it's a rate that we increased.
And the other one was on, I can't remember now which one it was, but the 80% when they're desiring additional education. I'm guessing the reason you wanted to make the number, this is the most it could possibly cost.
You have to assume most, that we have everyone staying put in our schools. So
those 2 columns there, then probably not quite realistic, but that is the worst case scenario as far as a dollar amount.
Right. It's a conservative measure, so you can count on this being worst case. And
worst case would be best case, though.
Well, best case, I hope it gets more expensive, but that's because people are the attainment rate and the population and the incomes of our citizens goes up. But this is looking at real data. And again, these are the numbers that I mentioned from the 2 schools and combined. And then this is the graduation rate information that I was talking to you about. And that 75%, 75.2 is the number that we used there. This is the letter from Catholic High School. It gives you a little bit of information about their demographics. My questions being to her, the students that do attend PJC and UWF that are graduating from Catholic High School, and then of her students, how many are city